Hello, Rob here from the Flanagan Homestead. I'm going to be pruning some fruit trees today, and we're going to give some quick basics on how to prune fruit trees. And one thing I wanted to stress is it's a science, but it's also an art. And you don't have to panic completely. There's a few principles that you want, but I'm out in the horticulture garden for my class. I've been letting my students prune a lot of these trees, but sometimes they freeze or are afraid to cut something because they don't know if it's going to be the right cut. And we could have two expert arborists come in here and prune the same tree, and it might look a little bit different. It's not an exact science, but there's things that you do want to do. Number one, on these semi-dwarf trees, we want to keep them from getting too tall. Number two, we are doing the vase technique where we're kind of opening it up from the bottom so that there's space for the sunlight to come in and the fruit to grow. And we're going to try to keep the branches from getting too long, that if there's fruit out in the end, they're going to weigh it down and snap them off. So we want to keep a shape, keep it from too high, too wide, open up the middle, cut out the suckers, and obviously if there's any dead or damaged branches in there, you need to take those out as well. So these are some of the things that we are looking for today. Today I will be working with hand pruners and loppers. I did leave my tree saw at home today. Actually, I traded vehicles with my son, and so my tools were there, but that should be plenty for this tree. So as we get started, first thing I want to do is look for any dead and damaged branches, and those have to go out no matter what. And so this tree doesn't look like it has too much dead or damaged on here. Some of this was from other trees that were pruned. So I don't have a whole lot of dead or damaged here, but you want to look for those first and get them out, because if you take them out, then you know what the rest of the tree is going to look like. Sometimes there might be a dead or dying branch up there that looks like a branch that you want to keep for spacing, and the next thing you know, as you work your way around, it's dead and dying, you cut it out, and your tree's not balanced. Speaking of balanced trees, almost all fruit trees that you'll have at your place now are put on a different rootstock than the actual tree itself, or the native tree itself. And this is to keep them from growing up taller, so whether they're dwarf or semi-dwarf. And those roots, again, don't let the tree to grow super large, but they also don't expand as much in the ground. And so that in soft soil like we have here, the sandy loam, if I let the tree get unbalanced and have way more branches on one side than the other, they get the fruit on it, get a snowfall on it, or whatever, and it'll pull it one way. And over there in the orchard, we have a tree that just started leaning because the root ball was not big enough for the tree, the unbalanced tree. So we need tree, it doesn't have to be exact, but if we got branches to the right, we need branches to the left, which you want that anyway, but you need to be aware if you're getting a little unbalanced to balance out the tree, take out the heavy side of the tree. Then we're going to just look at this tree and see what we got. This is generally opened up pretty good. Anything that we have growing up, suckers straight up in the middle, these are going to go out to create space. We're going to try to keep these growing up and out, but for instance, branches like this, but this is coming up, and if we let this entire branch go all the way out, there's too much to support on this branch, so we're going to shorten this branch. The New Year's growth right here will still produce fruit, but we're going to take off about 2 feet of this branch and leave the rest there. One of the things that I do like about this tree is it has more of what I would call a delayed open center instead of a vase all at once. Sometimes when you cut the twig off, or whoever you're getting the tree from cuts off the one twig and it gets branches all growing out at once in one spot, those branches end up getting larger and growing together, and they're weaker. This tree has a branch here that's a good solid branch that I'm going to keep, and then a few inches up the tree is another one, and a few inches up the tree is another one, and there's others that we're going to take out, but they're not all growing from the exact same whorl and going to grow together and the bark grow together and make themselves weaker. So I'm going to have a branch here, a branch on the opposite side, then moving up the tree a few inches, I'm going to have another branch, and I like that. It makes for a stronger tree. So I'm going to start off by just taking off some of the suckers, the branches that are growing straight up. Anything that's growing straight up or back in the middle, generally speaking, you want to take those out. One of the things that I really have to consider here is this stronger branch coming up here. It grows up into the middle. It's got this, there's multiple, I definitely want this branch out. I definitely want these ingrowing branches out. I may or may not want to keep these that are going out. In a lot of situations, I would take this entire section out here. In some situations, I'd take this out, but if I took it all the way down here, these are the only branches that are really coming out this way, and it would leave the tree unbalanced because of the strong branches going this way. So I'm going to get just above that branch. I should have my saw here for this one, but my lopper should do it. And so I got a significant section out there. I still have the branch growing out this way that will produce fruit off of that, but I took a whole lot out of the middle. The rest of these I probably can get, these inward branches I can get with my pruners. This has plenty of growth. I want this outward facing branch, so this growing up in, it's coming off. This growing back in, it's coming off. We're starting to get our shape now. This is going to be a little large for these pruners, but we'll get it. This comes out good, then reaches to the sky. I'm going to leave an outward facing bud, but take off most of the stuff that's growing straight up. I think some of this is off camera. Sorry. We've got most of the suckers out, well, not quite all of them, and the branches going back across. Some of these branches you see in here are actually already cut off. Now we need to make sure we have spacing. There's a lot of branches right here, and we need to make sure they're not too long so they can support the fruit and not put too much stress on the branch. So this, where I have, I would say, 6 branches within a couple feet of each other, I'm going to cut out this section and creating more space for this to grow open in the open space. I'm going to take out the middle one here, and I'm going to shorten these just a hair. And now we've got a little bit more room for the fruit to grow, and it's not too much weight. This, all 3.5, 4 feet of this is new growth, not strong enough to hold a bunch of fruit out here, so I'm going to shorten that by half. When I'm cutting these, if I want them to grow out a certain way, find a bud. There's buds everywhere, or nodes. Find a node that's facing the direction I want, and it will help grow out that direction the following year. So a lot of these new growth that are approaching 3 feet long, I'm cutting most of these approximately in half. Not that a half is a magic number, but on this tree, it's what the amount I'll get the amount of fruit that I think can then be supported by this branch and not be hanging out there way too far. This one that's growing across is going to come all the way out. Leave an outward facing node. This growing up is out. Too much in here, shorten this one. This one's coming all the way out because there's multiple branches in the same space. This is too low to the ground, some of this. The ones that are lower will get out. The ones that can keep the fruit off the ground and will leave a little bit of space for there to grow some fruit. This one needs to be shortened quite a bit. We've got some suckers growing straight up. Get rid of them. Get an outward facing node on this one. You always think you're done, then you step back and take a look, and then you see a couple more branches. This coming out here can support some growth, but then there's a branch growing straight down. I'm going to cut multiples of these, but there's fruiting buds right here that I will leave. Okay, let's get in a closer look. Generally speaking, I'm pretty happy with this. I've got spacing and balance and not too growth too far out. I can tell you there's some arborists that I know that would say that we're a little crowded in here and should space that out more. And I can tell you what, fruit will grow out here. And if it's too crowded this year, we can always take out more next year. It's going to be okay. It doesn't have to be exactly the way your neighborhood arborist would do it. Well, there you have it, another tree pruned. Remember, it's not an exact science, it's more an art as well. And thanks for joining me on the Flanagan Homestead, where Christmas trees are my business, teaching including horticulture is my job, and outdoor projects are my passion. I hope to see you again soon. Be blessed, everyone.